it's something that I've referenced a lot. Parkinson's law. Work expands to fill the time that we give it. What is your opinion or take on that?
I think for a lot of things that is true.
Hmm.
That email, for instance, will expand to take any amount of time you'll give it. So people are always looking for email hacks to spend less time on email. And I'm sure there are many, but the best approach is just to decide to spend less time on email and decide how much time you're going to give it. And then make email fit into that as opposed to, you know, how much time should I be spending on email? Same with housework. I'm always encouraging people to set a short window of time, maybe even set a timer. Like this kitchen, we are cleaning in 15 minutes. Whatever is not done at the end of 15 minutes probably wasn't dire because we would have gotten to it earlier in the
Hmm.
15 minutes if that's the case. So for the most part, yeah, there's a lot of things that do expand to fill the available space. That said, we can't cut things too much. Like there are always things that sort of just take the time that they take. And I'm a little skeptical about the idea that, for instance, we could fit a full work week into 4 hours.
Mm.
That's something that might be challenging to do if you have work that takes more than 4 hours, for instance, or
Mm.
like there's only so efficient we can be for any given thing. So it's always a balance.
Yeah, I completely know what you're saying. Especially, so I'm the type of person who feels like I constantly will need to do something quote unquote productive. And my default, if I can't find something that's actually productive, is clean the house. So I will be doing just ticking things off day after day, and I will put that underneath the category of, oh, I'm spending my time well, when I'm reality, I'm just filling my time with things that I should be quote unquote filling my time with.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, housework will take any amount of time you give it. So best to limit that as much as possible.
100%. I was going through your website and prepping for this, and I kind of came across something that I wasn't expecting to see in the time
Okay.
management. And that was, you have a list of 100 dreams.
Mhm.
Why should we build a list of 100 dreams? What does that have to do with time management?
This was a really awesome exercise that was shared with me years ago by a career coach named Caroline Sinisa Levine, and so I always want to credit her for it. Um, but the idea is that it is an unedited list of anything that you would like to do with your time. Because these are things that, in general, you want to spend more time doing, or goals that you have that are going to take time. Right.
Hmm.
Because any goal we have requires time. You might say, like, I want to run a 10K. And while that is not an explicitly time based goal,
Hmm.
like getting to the point where you can run the 10K is definitely going to take time. Like the steps toward this are going to have to fit into your schedule. You're going to have to block them in. You're going to figure out when you do them and protect the time from other things. And so I think that dreams and goals are very much part of time management. 'Cause time management isn't just about, making sure that, whatever has to get done gets done. It is also about making space in our lives for the things that we want to do. And curiously enough, because a lot of people assume that they have no time whatsoever, right? Like, I have no free time whatsoever. They don't think about what they want to do with their time. And so then when time appears, as it does for everyone, even if not as much as we want, we do whatever is easiest. We do what is right in front of us. And, these days that tends to be doom scrolling, social media comments, YouTube shorts, but it could be anything. But if we know what we'd like to spend more time doing, then we are slightly more empowered to choose one of those things
Hmm.
when we have some discretionary time. And probably for most of us, that would make for a much more satisfying life.
Hmm. Yeah. Why is it, do you think, that people, when we think of time management, we think of it from the category of how can I get more work done versus how can I save more time to do things that I actually want to do?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's funny. Time becomes this thing you want to save for its own sake,
Yeah.
which it time is a tool like anything else. Money is a tool. Like there's no point saving money just to save money. It's like, well, what are you going to do with it? What is that getting you in your life that you're happy about? And it's the same thing with time. Like, great, you got through your inbox quicker than everyone else. So what? Like what does that get you? Or what are you going to do with that time that you have saved that is going to advance you or the people you care about toward the lives you want? And if you're doing something awesome with the save time, amazing. If you are not, well, let's address that point first. And that's why I find it so I talk in all my speeches about sort of I have a list of bizarre time saving hacks that people have shared with me over the years. I mean, it's always things like clean the shower while you're in it. Or, soak your pasta before you boil it so it
Yeah.
takes less time to boil. I don't know. Pasta boiling maybe is consuming a lot of your life. I don't know, maybe. Um, or like, if you send a lot of emails where the answer is okay, just type K instead of okay in all your
Mm,
emails. Because obviously that is the key thing that is keeping most of us from living amazing lives is that we're typing okay. We're not typing K, we're just typing okay. Yeah, no.
yeah. So we find that most people by creating this dream list, it's putting a purpose to behind saving time versus now we're just saving time to fill it with more work. We're now can actually save that time and apply it to something that's a little bit actually going to give us more from life, a fulfilling thing.
And I would actually say it goes in the opposite direction. It's not that we should work to save time so that when we have time for these things that we want to do. I mean, that could be a happy side effect of
Hmm.
saving time is that we have time for these things we want to do. But I would encourage people to actually plan in the stuff that they want to do first. And not just, like I want to have a big fulfilling personal life, like that's great, but
Hmm.
even at work, you should think about what are the things that are important to you that are meaningful to you within the category of work and try to prioritize time for those things because when you do, everything else naturally takes less time.
Mm.
Like if you're working on a really awesome project with some smart coworkers and you're all having fun, getting these ideas back and forth off each other and you can see the progress you're making, you are going to spend less time in your inbox,
Hmm.
right? It's not that you discovered any cool new hack for doing email better, for spending less time in your inbox. You are just naturally going to spend less time in there because the opportunity cost is too high. You could be spending your time on this cool project with your awesome colleagues.
Hmm.
And so it's the same thing with anything. Like if you're training for a 10K and you're excited about it, well, you're going to be spending less time watching YouTube shorts.
Hmm.
Okay. Like they'll still be there later. You didn't come up with some awesome new self control that keeps you off of it. It's that you have something else you'd rather be spending your time doing.
I'm glad you called me out. Do you find that most people look at it from the way I said? It's let me prioritize the stuff that I don't want to do first, so I can maybe squeeze in the stuff that I actually want to do versus the other way.
Yeah, I mean, I always say we don't build the lives we want by saving time.
Hmm.
Like that is fundamentally true. You have to build the life you want, and then the time part will come along for the ride.
Yeah, I have a quote here that's what you say. We don't build the lives we want by saving time. We build lives we want, and then time saves itself. It's unfortunate that I don't think most people are as passionate about the work that they're forced to do for their like day to day to survive that they really can find that kind of passion. Is it more so like people need to like we were saying, we build the lives that we want. Like they need to find their purpose. They need to find like this joy, and that's really a key factor in building this time saving management system.
So I think there's a couple ways to look at this with work. I mean, I am always encouraging people to find work that they are
Hmm.
passionate about. And it's sometimes not always even the subject matter. It may be that you find you really like working with young people, right? And there could be a lot of ways to do that. It could be, mentoring people within your corporate organization. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a teacher. There's lots of
Hmm.
different ways that one could have this in your life. Some people really like, finding lots of information and putting it together in one place. Well, you could do that as a journalist, but you could also do that writing, investment reports or something. I mean, there's just lots of different things you could, if you figure out sort of what it is that you enjoy doing with your time, there's often many ways to do that within different industries, within different job titles. So it's not just like, I want to be a clown, and then
Hmm.
you figure out how you become a clown, and then you do. There's many ways that one can build a satisfying professional life, but you do need to think about how you would like to spend your time.
Hmm.
And even if we're not starting from scratch, I'm always encouraging people to think about, well, okay, within your job you have things you like to do more or less. I am sure you know what you like to do less. Most people have their finger on the pulse of that quite well.
Hmm.
But really think about what it is you'd like to do. Like if you were telling somebody about your job at a party, what would you be talking about? Like the parts that you enjoy doing, or what drew you to the job in the first place? If you were writing a job description of your job, what is it that you would be talking about? So think about what those things are. And could you potentially scale that up a little bit? Like, could you even just aim to spend one more hour per week on that favorite sort of work? As part of writing big time, I had a group of about 200 people try that. And they enjoyed their jobs more. I mean, not just the hour they were spending on the stuff they liked doing. They liked all their job more because it's like you had something you were looking forward to. It felt like work was more exciting. Somebody actually said to me, for the first time in ages, I didn't want to stop working on Tuesday. Like, how cool is
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
Like we're not looking forward to 5 p.m. counting minutes till quitting time. We actually want to keep doing what you're doing. So, I think it's possible in a lot of jobs.
Is that how you kind of naturally transitioned into more focusing on time management and stuff? Did you realize you kind of liked this, and then you spent a little bit more time on it, a little bit more time on it, and now you've got books. You're the person.
Time management is the overlap of things that I enjoy and I'm fascinated by, and that other people are willing to read about. So there's, there are other things that I
Yes.
enjoy writing about that nobody on this planet is going to pay money to have me speak about, to write books about, to have me as a podcast guest about,
Hmm.
to write my, listen to my whatever. And it's just not. You got to find that Venn diagram overlap
Hmm.
of what you care about, what other people will be interested in as well. More power to the people who can find more esoteric things and have it be an overlap there. But those of us who don't have that skill are working with what we have. But yeah, I came at this from the writing
Mm.
angle. I was always a writer.
Hmm.
And have done a lot of journalism in the past, writing about different topics for different places, and I did find that I was often interested in people's schedules and was often asking them about how they spent their time, and so that's what came out of it.
With writing, it's such a time oriented and focused. Like I remember Stephen Pressfield in like The War of Art and Turning Pro. He talks about how as a pro, like he shows up to his desk each day at the set amount of time to write the set amount of time each day, and like he carves out that window, and whether or not whatever rain or shine, he's going to be there because that's his job and that's what he looks like as a professional. And so it's really interesting how being a writer, you then, I'm sure, had to focus on your time, and that naturally led to a progression focusing on schedules. And then now you write about time management as one of those things. We contain multitudes. I'll talk to my friends about board games and training all day long, but people don't want to listen talk about that. So I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, for me, it's like the ancient Earth. That's one of them.
Mm.
Um, Weird things like type 2 errors, like some a bunch of weird math stuff and statistical stuff. Nobody cares. Nobody cares at all. But here we are writing about time management. So yeah, that tends to be my recreational reading. And then sometimes there's little Easter eggs thrown into my books for people who know these things about me and my weird obsessions that I will throw in and go
Mm.
like, haha, I saw that.
Mm. With your newest book that just came out, how does it build on your previous book, Tranquility by Tuesday, which is a great name, by the way? I'm curious how you came up with that one, but how does it build on that?
Well, Tranquility by Tuesday, obviously the alliteration is there, and
Yeah.
but I had been kicking around that title, and it's like people want to feel better about their time. They want to feel calm. They want to
Mm.
feel like life is good. So it's not like I'm trying to get people to get more done by Tuesday.
Hmm.
I would like people to have more of this tranquil sense of
Hmm.
life, even in the middle of a
Yeah.
busy work week.
Yeah. That reminds me kind of Tim Ferriss. He had a thing. Most people think life is like built up of all these like grand moments, like these big vacations, these big accomplishments or whatever. But reality is it's just built up of a bunch of Tuesdays, like a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
normal days that you need to make the most out of.
Yeah, and well, so in big time, it continues with the theme, but it's more, how do we get the sense of time abundance and what happens in life if we truly do believe that we have enough time for the things that matter to us? And, we were talking about this earlier, like people say they don't have time, and so they don't think about what they want to do with their time. So when they have time, they don't do what they would have done if they'd thought about it.
Mm.
So it's just a much better philosophy to go through life with
Hmm.
that I do have time for the things that matter to me, because then you think about what those things are. You think about how you can make small steps toward those things, even if you have a lot going on. So I'm encouraging people to adopt this mindset of time abundance, partly because it helps you get more done and
Hmm.
it helps you enjoy your life a lot more.
Often a lot easier to say than to like put into practice. Like I can say to myself, "Oh, I've got abundant time," but then in reality, I always feel like I'm scrambling from one thing to the next. Do we just need to keep saying that, and by saying that, eventually we start to believe it and see it, or how is it actually coming to practice?
Yeah, I think, just saying something over and over is not going to be that convincing to many
Hmm.
people. I think there are certain practices we can do that can help us convince ourselves that time might be more abundant than we've been giving it credit for.
Hmm.
One of the best things you can do, and I'll warn people, this is homework before you go and turn off the podcast, but track your time. Try tracking your time for 1 week,
Hmm.
168 hours. The first surprise many people have when they do this is that they didn't know there were 168 hours in a week. So that's a new discovery right there. But that right there kind of changes how you think about time. Think about something like people have a full time job. Well,
Hmm.
if I have a full time job, that sounds like it's the full amount of my time. But you very quickly see when you are tracking 168 hours that 40 hours is nowhere near the full amount of your time.
Hmm.
50 hours is nowhere near the full amount of your time. And many people work less than they think they do. So, we start to see that there's a lot of time for other things, even if we are working quite a bit. So seeing the whole week, see where you have spent your time, what you have done, and for many people, this starts to show them that, yes, I have some amount of time that I have control over, that I have agency over. It may not be as much as I want,
Hmm.
but it is seldom zero. And once you see that, you realize I can start to make choices about what I do at this time. And there may be space in my life for things that I had been discounting before.
With the tracking aspect, how detailed and specific do we need to be? Like, is it I for this 5 minute window, I went to the bathroom for this? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I tend not to put bathroom trips on my time logs. I don't really want to know. I'm sure there's somebody who's kept a detailed bathroom log for
There,
for their lives, but
just
yeah,
a side note, there's this app, I can't remember what it's called, but you can log everywhere you went to the bathroom, and it's like a geo log, and so you can see, like, around the world, all the
around the
places that
world,
you've
I
gone.
have used these restrooms. Yeah, well, that is not something I'm that interested in recording. I mean, maybe someday if I develop a stomach condition, I will want to know. But it it's more. I use a 30-minute
Okay.
blocks. My time tracker that I've been using for years is a spreadsheet, Excel. It has the days of the week across the top, Monday to Sunday, half-hour blocks down the left-hand side, 5 a.m. to 4:30 a.m. So
Mhm.
we have 336 cells representing the 168-hour week. I check in roughly 3 times a day. I write down what I have done since the last time I checked in. Each check-in just takes about a minute, so we're talking 3 minutes a day, about the same amount of time I spend brushing my teeth, which is something I've yet to decide is onerous and terrible and doesn't fit in my busy life. So I'm encouraging people to think about putting some time into this. It will not be that bad, I promise. Now, obviously, if you don't want to track your time on a spreadsheet, there are other things you can use. There's dozens of time tracking apps on the market, so you can use one
Mhm.
of those. You can just use a notebook, walk around with a little notebook. You want to look like you're, some sort of poet in a cafe, writing down how you're spending your time. You can do that.
Mhm.
It doesn't really matter what you choose. You just want to do something you will stick with, because
Mhm.
then you can get the data and you can start to say, well, what do I want to do with this?
I have a fitness background, and so I've spent time in the past, tracking my calories, and it's funny, the amount of time that you spend tracking your calories, once you stop, you would now have, like, so much more appreciation or knowledge about food, so I can, like, look at a plate of food and accurately estimate that to, pretty close, and especially better than people who have not had experience tracking your calories. So, like, once you track something, you then have a lot more awareness about what you're doing even after you're done tracking it.
Yeah, a lot of people's eyes have been sort of open to the idea of what time truly looks like,
Hmm.
and what a week truly looks like. Because if you haven't done it before, then you probably don't have a good sense of where all 168 hours of your week go to. So, yeah, even if you only do it once in your life and never do it again,
Hmm.
you'll still learn something, and it's still worth doing.
Mm. So that's one of the tricks to reframe our mind towards abundance. Is there any others that we should be implementing?
Yeah. Well, the other major homework thing I'm always encouraging people to do is to have a designated weekly planning time. So once we've tracked our time in terms of a week and started to look at life in terms of a week, that opens up the possibility that we should start to plan our
Yes.
lives in terms of weeks. And so, time keeps passing no matter what you are doing. And it is thus very easy to spend time mindlessly. So, having a weekly planning session is when you step outside the flow of time for a minute and think about what you would like this future chunk of time, this future 168 hours to look like. So, I always do this toward the end of the week, like Thursday or Friday, looking forward to the next Monday to Sunday week. And I get out my calendar, open a new page in my planner, decide what is most important for me to accomplish in three categories: career, relationships, self. So self is things for my own physical, mental, spiritual, emotional health. Relationships, things with family and friends, what's important there. And then obviously career, things that I think are important for me professionally over the next week. And the question is, if when I'm doing this again and
Hmm.
next week, like what do I want to like what would make it feel like a good week? Like what would make me feel like, yeah, I hit it out of the park this week. I got a lot done. This was a productive, satisfying, meaningful week.
Hmm.
And so I think about that, like in those three categories, what would make that be the case? Now, the good news of having done this for decades now and tracking my time is I have a good sense of what's going to fit in a week.
Hmm.
Like when people first start doing this, they often aim big, and it's nice to have big ambitions. But when it comes to planning, we really want to have a good match between what we'd like to get done and what we can get done.
Hmm.
So I tend to create a list that I am 95% certain I will get through everything by
Mm.
the end of the week. Because it's a forcing mechanism, right? It has to be
Yeah.
short because I want to get through all of it.
Yeah. Oh, a couple things. Why are we doing this, or are you doing this Thursday or Friday versus like a Sunday or like a Monday morning, like at the start of the week?
Well, Chase, I'm glad you asked that question. um, because there is a reason. One is that planning, like most people are not, like Friday afternoon is a great time for planning. Most people are not doing anything else by Friday afternoon. Like
Mm.
you're not willing to start a new project, a big project at work. You're like, woohoo, I'm excited to make progress on my professional and personal priorities right now. Like, no, you are not. You are sliding into the weekend at that point. But if you're not willing to do something, like actually execute on something, you might be able to think about what future you should be doing.
Hmm.
And that way you can turn what might be wasted time into some of your most productive minutes of the week. Friday is also business hours. So if you need to set up a meeting with someone, if you need to make an appointment somewhere, all those places are still going to be open.
Mm.
So you can call and make that happen, or call, set up the appointment or whatever you need to do. Whereas if you're planning on Sunday night, that's less of an option. Um, you can hit Monday morning ready to go. Like, a lot of people like to do their planning Monday morning, but the problem with that is if you're setting things up, again, it's not gonna happen until later in the day on Monday or even Tuesday. And most people have more energy for executing at the start of things, so you wanna make sure you get that Monday morning energy and throw it against whatever you have decided is good for you to be doing. And so by planning on Thursday or Friday, you can make sure that happens. It also means you're not spending your weekend doing this. Right?
Yeah.
Like, and not even just that you don't want to spend all your leisure time on this, on the planning and all that requiring the executive function and all that. It's just more. I think a lot of people who, even people who love their jobs, coming into Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, they get this trepidation, and it's that there's this pile of stuff waiting for you, and you have no idea how you're going to deal with it. And so your brain is churning about this all weekend long until you get to your Sunday evening planning spot where you figure it out. But if you'd done that on Friday, you'd know what was waiting for you next week. You'd have a plan for dealing with it. And so then you could go into your weekend relaxed
Hmm.
and not think about it until the weekend is over.
You saying talking made me think of Alex Ramosi. Kind of somebody asked Alex Ramosi, who's a big entrepreneur, is like, what's your morning routine? And they've been talking about like morning routines with other guests before. So like these super optimized morning routines or whatever. And Alex is like, my morning routine is just to get out of bed and get to work. Like at the end of the day, like I just need to start doing the thing. And so that kind of makes me think of like this time optimization. It's like some people, if they have a proclivity towards productivity or trying to over optimize, it's like, okay, you've now spent so much time optimizing your time that you no longer have the time to just do the thing. So at some point, you just need to make it simple and do the thing. And so by doing that on Saturday or by Thursday or Friday, kind of really helps you free up the weekend to do the stuff that you actually want to do.
Exactly.
I heard you mentioned the golden hour evening concept. What is this?
So this is another thing that people can do to start spending their time better right away. So evenings, and particularly weekday evenings, are very hard to use well. So you think about the time after work and before bed. A lot of people, you're tired. This time tends to be spent pretty mindlessly. If people have, family responsibilities, they have to deal with them. But, after that, it's like, okay, well, what? Like, there's a lot of screen time that tends to happen, a lot of, random, not really thought through time. And that's fine. It's just that the problem is this is a lot of time to write off as unusable. And that is something people discover when they track their time. They're like, huh, I was done with work at like 5:30. I go to bed at 10:30, 11. Like, we're talking 5 hours in here. And yes, there are things that have to happen, but it tends not to be 5 hours worth for most people. And yet this time can pass as if it never happened at all. Like, you can get to the end of it and have no clue, like, what happened. You have nothing to show for it. And so I'm not talking about like doing something productive with it in air quotes, but I want people to do something fun
Mm-hmm.
with it. So the golden hours is how I'm rebranding weekday evenings. Like, we get our golden years in
Yeah.
retirement. So after you've worked for years, you get time for family and leisure. Same thing every day. You get a miniature version of it. You get your golden hours after, work day and before bed. And I'm always encouraging people to come up with one 30-minute intention for their golden hours. So what would you like to do tonight for 30 minutes that would be fun for you? And it could be a low energy activity. It could be, I want to read this book for 30 minutes, or, this magazine I subscribed to came in the mailbox over the weekend. I want to make 30 minutes to page through that. Or I want to do a puzzle. I want to do a hobby. I want to call a friend. I want to go for a family walk. Lots of these different things, but some form of leisure that you think would be enjoyable to you. Look at your evenings, see where you can make it happen, do it. Notice that you are doing it. Reflect on it afterwards, on the experience, on that it happened. And you do this, like, you'll start to feel more like these hours actually exist. And regardless of how much you are working, like, not changing anything about work, all of a sudden you feel more of a sense of work-life balance because your time outside of work now has stuff in it that you're aware of, like it feels like it happened. And so it can compete mentally, like in the amount of space we give it in our brains with the things we have to do. And so it's a little shift, but it can
Mm.
be quite profound.
Do you find that if people don't set this intention, um, they won't, the time will just like slip away, or they'll be thinking about work versus if they set this intentional time to do this thing that they actually enjoy, there's like a breakup to the monotony. You are focused on something where you're actually spending your time versus letting it just passively go by.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes people would think about work, but I think the most common thing
Yeah.
people do is like lose it to what I call our electronic hobbies.
Yes. 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 Yes.
So people say, "Oh, I don't have time for hobbies." Almost everyone has what I call an electronic hobby. It is checking your favorite social media apps. It's watching short videos. It's doom scrolling. It's all these things that we do that fill the time, and it is quite easy to spend a great deal amount of time on these electronic hobbies. But I think if you looked at it in the abstract and say, like, you're going to spend 45 minutes on a hobby tonight. What hobby would you like to spend it on? I'm not sure that many people would be like, ooh, doom scrolling. Let's do that. Like, you would choose something a little bit more intentional. And so I think we got to challenge ourselves to do that, to like understanding that this time is being spent on something, but we can make a choice of what it is spent on.
Mm. I recently stumbled across this app. I've been using it for like 2 or 3 weeks. I think it's called One Thing. It's pretty cool. Like you can go in and you can set whatever apps you want to like be blocked. So like social media or whatever, things like that. And then you can choose your activity. So I've been choosing reading. Um and when I wake up or whenever I want to do it, all my apps are blocked until I take like a picture through the app of like a book or whatever activity I chose, and then it'll like use AI to actually analyze what it is, and then it'll start like a 30-minute timer. That's how long I set. And then my apps will be unlocked when I'm done at that time. You can set that with whatever thing. I read anyway. I read a lot anyway. But for me, what I noticed is by having that set up in the morning, I so unintentionally like I'll get up and I'll check my phone and I'll be like, oh, let me just look at this email, and that'll lead to sending an email, which will lead to scheduling, which will lead to all this other stuff. And the next thing I know, I've spent like 45 minutes, like first thing, like doing this work versus trying to have like my slow morning or doing the things that I want to be doing. So that app has been pretty good for me to just like set the boundaries of my control versus not getting sucked into something right away.
Yeah, well, whatever you can do. I mean, whatever it takes to hold yourself accountable.
How do you look at mornings? Do you think mornings are important? Do you have like a good morning routine, things that we should be focused on?
Mornings can be a great opportunity for a lot of people to do things that are important to them, particularly people who have full time jobs, like especially if they're full time in office jobs, and if they have a family. The time after work may be less available for certain sorts of activities. You can, obviously, have a family, you could still go to the gym for an hour after work every night, but most people aren't going to do that because they want to go see them and hang out with them at least, until the kids are in bed or whatever. So mornings tend to be the time that is available for you for exercising, for instance. People have creative pursuits that they want to do. It's just a very good time that's most likely to happen because that time won't be taken away from you for something else. Now, that said, there's nothing inherently more moral about using your mornings versus any other time of day. So if you're the sort of person who can jump on the treadmill at 8 p.m., like you've got little kids, you get them into bed at 7:30 and you're like, "Okay, I'm going to jump on the treadmill now at 8 and go for a run." That's awesome. Like there's nothing wrong with it. There's no reason to move that to the morning if that's working out for you, great. If you are capable of writing the great American novel at night, go for it. I mean, like Toni Morrison, like apparently wrote The Bluest Eye while, caring for her son when her son was little, and he'd go to bed and she'd write at night. I mean, it's just like some people can do it.
Hmm.
A lot of people have more energy and discipline and focus in the morning, though. And so, if that is the case for you, and it is for a lot of people, then if you have things you want to fit into your life and they don't seem to be fitting in at other points, you might try looking at the mornings and seeing if you can make it work there.
Yeah, that's something I learned about myself a long time ago is I really front load my mornings. Like I prioritize the stuff that is most important to me and I get that stuff done fast because I realize I really just start to get major decision fatigue or just my mental acuity toughness really just kind of falls off a cliff around 3:30. So I like to wake up really early. I go to bed really early. And then I just really just like to tick things off in the morning because you're right. There's a lot less interruption. There's a lot less or a lot more ability to just focus and stay on the task. And then for me, it's just I'm aware of myself. Like I have that chronotype where I function more in the morning and I just need to get that most important stuff done first. One big adventure versus one little adventure. And I've heard you talk about that before on other things. And it's in your book. It's from The Tranquility by Tuesday. It's one of your 9 rules. And that one stuck out most to me because throughout most of my life, I've always put what I'm doing kind of first. It's like, oh, like I want to compete in CrossFit. I want to do this kind of competitive thing. So everything else is on the back burner. And then after years of like competing, you look back and it's like literally Monday through to Sunday was the exact same thing on repeat. And I don't know anything outside of like the major competitions that occurred that day. How do these adventures help us gain more of a focus over our time?
Yeah, I should point out a lot of adult life. I mean, even for people who aren't doing athletic competitions, is pretty much the same over and over again. You get up, you go to work, you come home, dinner. If you've got kids, you get them to bed, watch TV, go to sleep, do it all over again, right? And there's nothing to distinguish one day from the other. And there's nothing wrong with routines because routines make good choices automatic. So we definitely want to have good routines in our lives for anything that needs to be there. But you don't want to have a situation where every day is so much like the other that there isn't anything that you remember, because it's the amount of memories we have of any given unit of time that makes it feel bigger than what it was. So you think about like the years you were in high school. Like many people, it's like the 4 years you were in high school seem like the longest 4 years in the history of the planet. I mean, they're certainly longer than the past 4 years, whatever you were doing during that time. But that's somebody else. Somebody was a high school student during that time. It's the longest years on the planet for them. It's just that you have so many new experiences and things that put you a little bit outside your comfort zone and novelty and all that. So, how do you put that into your adult life? Well, I find this rule of having one big adventure and one little adventure each week is a good cadence. So we can still have lots of great routines, whatever is going on with that. But each week we want to do two things that are a little out of the ordinary for us. A big adventure can be something that takes about 3 to 4 hours. So think half a weekend day. A little adventure could be less than an hour. So doable on a weekday evening, maybe even over a longer lunch break, just as long as it is out of the ordinary for you.
Hmm.
And if you do this cadence over and over again, you'll have a lot more memories. You should be thinking about what could I do that makes this week different from all other weeks. It wasn't just the week that was completely forgettable in terms of memories. It's like, no, that's the week we went and hiked in that state park that's an hour away. This is the week we took a bike ride to that new gelato place, right? And when you have those things, they make life feel entirely different than if you don't have those things, if you're just doing the same thing over and over again.
Jesse Itzler has this idea of a misogi as well. And it's like something that you put on your calendar year that's like the big thing that you're working for. Like whether it's physical, like I'm going to do an Ironman or whatever it is, that big thing that takes a lot of effort for you to do as well. Or whether it's personal or spiritual or business related. He has this thing called the big ass calendar, and I have it right here, but it's an entire calendar year, just all in one big sheet. So it's like 4 feet by 5 feet. And what I've noticed, this is my first year having it, is by A, I have my misogi on there, the thing I'm working towards, but B, it's like you don't realize like it's June. Like I didn't realize that until I was like coming in to talk to you. It's like the time goes so fast, but I still feel like my year just started, even though I'm working towards the things and I'm happy with how I've spent my time. It's just when I look back at those, it's like I have not been having my big adventures or my little adventures because I'm so focused on trying to do that thing that I'm trying to do right now. What I kind of realized by doing that is like I'm trying to postpone happiness or whatever you're trying to do. Like, and like it's the arrival fallacy. It's like when I get there, I will then have the time to do this thing versus let me just start doing the things that I want now that make my life memorable, that make it more enjoyable while I'm still working on the thing. So I really like that idea. It's something that I really want to focus on. Do you have like a list of like small adventures, big adventures, something that you like to recommend for people?
I think people can come up with this list from themselves. I mean, it might help, especially for like the big adventures, kind of make yourself a local bucket list.
Mm.
Think about anything that's within an hour or two of your home
Mhm.
that would be fun for you to do. I mean, this could be a project for you to spend a couple hours making this list. Look at local tourist books, like look at, get on the calendars, the email lists of any venues that are
Mhm.
around you, because then you'll have things like concerts or performances that are coming to town. Any sort of organizations in your area that put on things like festivals or
Mhm.
block parties or something. These are all sorts of things that you could start getting aware of. And then when you're doing your weekly planning, obviously you can look forward and think, okay, what adventure would I like to have this week, and pull something from the list. But I wanted to go back to something you said there, like you're so focused on achieving a goal, and so you don't have time for these other things, or you're not making time for the adventures and things like that. I think people often have this idea that there are these trade-offs in life that I am not sure are there.
Mhm.
And because again, we're looking at time very narrowly. So that if people talk about like what is that thing I saw, like the entrepreneur's dilemma or something, that you have to, work, family, health, sleep, choose two.
Yeah.
Or, some people do it another way. Like there's 4 burners on our stove. We can only have one going at any given time. No, There are 168 hours in a week. There are 8,768 hours, 8,760 hours in a year. There is time in that for all sorts of things. Like
Mhm.
in 168 hours in a week, it would be really ridiculous to say, like, oh, well, because I'm spending, 50 hours really focused at work, I have no time for friendships now. It's like, okay, well, nobody's asking you to spend 50 hours a week on friendships. Could you find 2 hours in the remaining 62 hours you have outside the 50 hours you are spending working and the 56 you are spending sleeping to see friends? I absolutely think you can.
Mhm.
Could you find, 5 hours to exercise in those 62 hours? Absolutely. Like we still have 55 hours for, our families, for the things that have to happen, our chores and like
Mhm.
other forms of relaxation. Like it's ridiculous to say like you can't have all these burners going at once or all these, that you
Mhm.
can't choose all of these things.
Just push back on that. Would you say that you can't do them all, like, you can't be the best at all of them at the same time? Like, for example, like
Nobody's the best at anything. I mean, there are 8 billion people in this world. Like the
correct,
idea that any of us is the best at anything is
correct.
somewhat
I did
laughable.
not specifically the best, but let's say, for example, let's take somebody who's not the best. And I did an Ironman recently, so it's on the mind. But so we'll talk about that. I am not a professional Ironman athlete. I don't want to be. I'm never going to be great at it. I just did it for fun. But the people who are the best professional, Ironman athletes, they are training, 40, 50, 60 hours a week. Like that's their job. Um, do we have to specialize to some extent? Like, for example, let's say somebody wanted to build a business. Could they also be, that could they also try to be an Ironman athlete? And let's just say those are totally different things. Like something has to give, like
Well, it's interesting because I feel like it's more the cliche that people build the business and sell it and then go do the Ironman because that's what
correct,
they do in the year after they sell their business as they're trying to figure out what their next big building thing is going to be.
correct.
Um, But yeah, I mean, sure, if you want to build a business and do an Ironman, I'm not sure that you're going to be doing like for one thing, I don't think many people do 60 hours of training for anything physical because it's you reach a physical limit of it. Like if you look at something like, world-class marathoners, you're not running 60 hours a week.
No,
Like
you're not.
you can't. You just can't. So especially with physical training, there's a limit on it. Now, I'm sure you have a huge breakthrough going from, say, like what most of us do, like 5 hours a week of exercising, going up to something like 15 to 20. Like
Mhm,
that's obviously going to be a huge
mhm,
um, gap in there. But would it be possible to train for 15 hours a week for something, to have a full time job, to spend time with your family, to see your friends? I believe those things could fit
mhm,
in 168 hours. Now, do you need to be a little bit flexible about when things happen? Probably. When I was training for a marathon, when I had two very small children, what I often did is went for my long runs on Thursday mornings.
mhm,
And I just like Thursday was just going to be a compressed work day. I basically, handed the baby to our nanny at 8 a.m., started running, ran till 11, and
mhm,
then worked. Right.
mhm,
And it was, that it was just that was like to make it work take a little bit less time and put it in there because I thought, doing the long run on the weekend was going to take time away from other things. And you're trying to have like our family adventures on the weekend. But I can tell you that it did, in fact, all fit. That I could, train for a marathon while launching another book that I
mhm.
had while having, two children, age 2 and under. Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
it fits.
Yeah. No, I completely know what you're saying. I remember when I was doing CrossFit, and I have professional Ironman friends who train for it full time. You're right, you can't do 60 hours a day. But what I classified kind of as training is like when you're not training, you are getting body work done, and then you're doing stretching, and then you're having to eat 8,000 calories, and then you have to get more sleep. Like they're having to sleep 10 hours. So like once you try to niche down towards the best, specifically in physical activity, a lot of other things come with it if you truly want to be quote unquote the best. But that's not what we're kind of talking about here. We're talking about most people, the average person. And what I've realized for me is I have that tendency of saying, okay, if I want to do this, I need to give up that. But that's not the case for me. And the reality is I actually perform less good if I do that, if I give up that, whatever that is, time with friends, time with family, hobbies that I'm doing, because I think I need to spend more time on this. But I often found that the time that I do spend on my activity is often less productive than if I just, took time for myself. If I saw some friends, if I had some time doing some fun stuff, I can give a lot more to my work, towards or whatever I'm trying to do at that time, because I've then taken the time for myself. And I think so many people forget that the time for yourself is what really allows you to give time to other stuff.
To point out that a lot of the things that people do want to fit in their lives and tell themselves will not fit, that they don't have space for it, like things like hanging out with friends. Like most of us are not going to 20 hours of parties a week either. Like I mean, we're talking about like how many
I
hours
know.
it's going to take for all this. Like if you are if you're spending 2 hours a week on sort of activities with friends, like that's going to be pretty good. That could be, meet one friend for lunch. Like maybe you have another friend that you run with for an hour. Like
Hmm.
that's like pretty good. You're gonna feel good on the friendship front, and you haven't done anything that you wouldn't have been doing anyway. Like you're probably gonna eat lunch.
Yep.
Like if you're, most of us do need to exercise at some point in our lives. So like the idea that you couldn't make time for friends is just kind of ridiculous. Like it's not. We're not trying to find 50 hours for it. We're trying to find a
Yeah.
couple.
The first time that I've had it on my calendar was probably like 4 or 5 months ago. Like me and my friend group put on our calendar, we have like a shared calendar of a time, the last Wednesday of every month. Like this is when we'll guaranteed to get together. Two of them just have brand new kids, so they're kind of crazy. But we recognize that like their life got a little bit crazy. They're new parents. And so by putting that on the calendar, that has ensured over the past few months, like we have seen each other guaranteed. Like
Hmm.
if it doesn't work this time, we'll text and we'll move it up or move it back. We have fallback plans for it, and that has allowed our friendship to flourish and continue despite them having new situations in their life. So by having it on a calendar has been a real game changer for me.
Sure, absolutely. Make sure it has a time.
Yes, 100%. Well, Laura, I like to close each podcast by asking my guests two specific questions. The first being, who do you think I should speak to next and why? And then the second is, what's a book you'd most recommend for me? And I want you to give me your own book and then another book.
I mean, I've problem is I've just been on so many amazing podcasts over the past month with book promotion that it's hard to know like who I should recommend you talk to. I mean, I'll think about that question for sure. Um, but in terms of let's see, books I've been reading recently, I actually enjoyed one that's oh, you're gonna laugh about this because I'm so into reading about the ancient Earth. And one of my obsessions. So I was reading the Stephen Jay Gould book, Wonderful Life,
Okay.
and it's about the discovery of the Burgess Shale, which is a rock formation in Canada that has all these animals preserved from the
Mm,
early Cambrian, when there was a so-called Cambrian explosion, when animal life really came to be on the
hmm.
Earth, 550 million years ago, more or less, and what's it's sort of funny to think about because many of those phylums and such went extinct after that, and all modern life is descended from only a few of them.
Hmm.
And if you look at the animals that were around then, you have no idea which ones would have made it and which weren't. Like you can't say like, oh, those animals are obviously more fit. They're going to survive through and generate the modern animals and all that. It was random. Like who knows? Like
Yeah.
if the tape of life had rewound and run again, it could have been entirely different, and so we would not be here.
Yeah.
But that's so it's something to think about.
Yeah. That's a cool book. Ryan Holiday talks about like reading books. When you read a book, you should be like looking for your next book, kind of in that book.
In that book, yeah, see
Yeah,
what they're referencing. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. And he talks about it like a monkey swinging from vine to vine. And so like I've been doing that, and it's
Yeah.
really interesting how I could start at like a Ryan Holiday book like Stoicism and then end over in like quantum physics. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, how did I get here? And it's really fun.
Do that too. I mean,
Yeah.
and especially with these books about like the ancient Earth, like they'll reference something else, like as so and so said in her book on this, and so then
Hmm.
I'm like, like, oh, I should go check out her book on that.
Exactly.
And then next thing I know, I'm reading about some other aspect of like, I don't know, the end Permian extinction. And then
Yeah.
that's exciting. Yes.
That's so fun. Well, I'll check it out. It's got to be on my list because I am interested on that. I just did a podcast. It's not out yet with a professor and author on Vikings. So we talked for like 2 hours on Vikings, and
On
so
Vikings.
I
Yes.
was like, yes, now I'm ready to go to Spartans and then the Romans, and then take me back even to the. So yeah, I totally get what you're saying. What was it? What was its name?
It's called Wonderful Life, and it's by Stephen Jay Gould.
Well, I really appreciate your time. Where can people get more of your work? Where can they follow you? Where can they get your books?
Yeah, come visit my website, lauravanderkam.com. It's just my name. You can learn more there about Big Time, which is my newest book, and Tranquility by Tuesday, which you also referenced, which came out in 2022. You can learn about my podcasts, learn about my newsletters, and I'd love to talk with people there. So feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Laura.
Thanks for having me.